What is the story of that journey?
I worked for a couple of big tutoring companies and I was just really shocked.
I don't think there's a lot of people who think that way.
Yeah, kind of when I was a kid, I was into weird things.
How many people applied, Jonny?
I've heard about...
What? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode in our new series of Three Bosses in a Podcast. And the series that we have and are bringing and excited to be bringing you is Entrepreneurship in Education. We've got a super guest to kick off all proceedings. We have the one, the only Mr. Jonny Heaver here, who, as many people will know, has graced our TV screens in our living rooms and has been very important in the lives of many young people with the education company that he has, Achiever Tuition. So we'll kick off with the first couple of questions, if that's okay, Jonny. Welcome to the channel. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. How are you, Matthew?
Very good. Now, one question that always kicks off very well is, what is it that would be useful for me, Richard, and all of our listeners to know about you that has gotten you to where you are today? What is the story of that journey?
Where I am today is running my tutoring company, Achiever Tutoring. What led to that was when I was at university. So I went to University of Liverpool. I was studying English, which is a core subject at schools. So a lecturer of mine said, there are a lot of tutoring companies out there who employ students. It would be good for you to maybe get involved. So I thought, oh, interesting. So I did. And I worked for a couple of big tutoring companies. And I was just really shocked by the quality of them. What do I mean by that? There was just no accountability of tutors. There was no expectations. Clients were massively overpaying. And I just found it really shocking that these massive companies, often government-funded companies as well, could be there and just not do a good job. And I just found that really peculiar. And naive little first-year me just thought I could be doing this better myself. And upon research, tutoring was a and becoming more saturated market. And that didn't put me off. There were a lot of massive companies out there. Again, that didn't put me off. And in the summer of first year, when I got about 2 or 3 months off in the summer, I just decided to set up Achiever Tutoring, which originally was spelt with my surname in it, Heaver, like AC Heaver. Oh. That's how the name Achiever came about, which worked at first because it was just me. But then when I started getting people on board, people obviously thought I was just spelling Achiever wrong, which is not the look you want as an English tutor. So I swapped that out pretty quickly. But anyway, and then from there, I'm now lucky to say, team of 40, thousands of sessions done. And yeah, it was a good leap of faith to take.
So wait, am I to understand that you were what? You were 18 years old, maybe 19 years old, and you set up Achiever Tutoring?
Yeah, I was 20 when I first set it up, yeah.
I have to say, when I was 20, I wasn't doing anything remotely half as responsible as that. In fact, I didn't really know my butt from my elbow at that age. I don't know about you, Richard.
I've got a very different way of being responsible. I had a couple of kids by the time I was 20, so it was like I tried to be quite responsible. Probably wasn't.
Richard, that's very responsible. Bringing people into this world at 20, I would say, is even harder than having a business at 20. I'd say.
Oh, maybe, and definitely maybe a different podcast. We'll get into that. I think slightly different thing. The thing that really stands out to me, what you said there, Jonny, was about the working for a company and recognizing this lack of accountability. No one was really checking up. There was almost like no responsibility. For a student of 18, 19, I would have gone, brilliant, I'll do what I want. Let's just turn up for an hour, get paid and then not make an impact and just take the money because as a student, that's all I really needed. Where do you think that responsibility came from? Because you obviously felt it. You was like, oh, I can do something better here.
Yeah, I think, and you know what? There was something quite nice because I did get paid at the end of the day and there were lots of sessions where my students didn't turn up and I just got paid for, tidying my room or whatever. But actually I do have a big part of me, I think, is committed to justice. And it just didn't seem right to me that taxpayers at the time were actually paying me to do nothing. That just didn't fit right in my brain. It just didn't make sense to me. And then also the other part, which wasn't the NTP program, the private clients as well, they were not, a lot of them weren't rich families. They were, families who were forking together just about enough money to pay a huge amount of money for me, when actually none of that money really was going to me. I was getting about 25% of what the company charged. And, and I'm just thinking, where is this money going? And that just didn't sit right with me. And upon a lot of research, I realized, money is going to these CEOs kind of on boats in Dubai, not paying tax. None of it sat right with me at all. And I think, a part of me selfishly maybe quite enjoyed it as quite an easy part-time job. But then I think life's about more than that,
Nice, yeah.
I suddenly found myself very committed to making something better, because I do care about education. I care about equality. I care about access to education. And it felt kind of a bit immoral being there for too long, to be honest. So that's why it didn't feel right for me.
Did you know when you went to university to study English at Liverpool that you would fall into education? Was that something that when you went to university and you were like, yeah, I'm going to do an English degree, what was the game plan? Was there a game plan?
Yeah, no, there was not a game plan. And even when I set up Achiever, I never woke up one morning saying, I'm going to run a tutoring company. That's just not how it happened. Like, yes, I started tutoring as kind of like a first year job. And then I took on someone to do maths because I couldn't do maths. And then I needed another English tutor because we got more clients. And then before I knew it, I did have a little team. But I never woke up one morning going, oh, my dream job is to run a tutoring company. That just didn't happen. So it was kind of accidental and was led by the demand I ended up getting. And in terms of uni, no, I never thought I would go into academia or education, because actually I wasn't a hugely gifted child academically at school. I was middle for a lot, and I think I was a very late developer as well. I struggled in my earlier years, like primary school, I found really tough. I think I spent most of the time staring out the window, to be honest. And then I think it was not till A levels really, where I thought, oh, okay, I've got a bit of a flair for English, but that wasn't till a lot later. And a lot of people told me not to do A level English, not to go and do a degree in English, because I wasn't really good enough. But now I am, and I think that's partly what's made me a good tutor, because I know how to break things down. I understand students who find it difficult. And that's, I think, why I'm good at what I do now, because I'm able to empathise. I remember what it's like being in the student's shoes not that long ago. And I think, that's my approach. And
do you know something which I find really, one, amazing, inspiring, but also quite funny, because me and Matthew met this morning and had a good conversation around business in general, just literally just chewing the fat over business growth and what it's like and what you want to achieve, is that you literally went, I've accidentally grown a business. It's just happened. How did this happen? And like, some of us are like, oh, God, I'm really trying to grow my business and I don't know how to do it. And it just kind of happened for you, which I don't believe is true, because there's always other things going on right there. And it might feel accidental, as in, I needed to get someone on board because they could do maths and I couldn't. But in some people's minds, they go, well, I don't offer maths.
Yeah.
So where do you think that desire and ambition comes from?
I think it links again to underperforming at school.
Do you?
Right.
Okay.
I do. I was never the brightest at my friends. I look at my friends from Deal and they're all cleverer than I am at school. Do you know what I mean? They were. And I felt maybe, I don't know, that bothered me a little bit. I feel like I like proving people wrong, but also I like proving myself wrong. I underestimated myself a lot of my school career. So now helping kids who also underestimate themselves gives me that, I'm like, yes, go on, whatever, student, because and I think that's really cool. But you're right, and I don't want to be flippant that I accidentally ran a business, because I get that. That's not how it worked. I didn't wake up one morning and have 5 people working with me. But what I mean by that is, yes, I said yes to things. I was always a yes man. And I was always a yes man, even if I didn't really have the resources at the time to say yes. I'm very much a say yes now, work it out later. Yeah. And it makes you work harder.
I think that is literally the crux of entrepreneurship. Yeah. Say yes now, figure it out later.
100%.
I think that's very, very important theme in most entrepreneurs, with most entrepreneurs.
You're so right. And you know when you meet an entrepreneur or not, because a lot of my friends will say, no, Jonny, you can't possibly do that. No, Jonny, that's too risky. No, Jonny, you don't have the skills. No, Jonny, it's too saturated. The entrepreneurs will go, yeah, that sounds great. Give it a go. That's the difference. And I think you've got to be a little bit delusional to be a successful entrepreneur. Actually, I do believe that you've got to be, because you've got to have the unrelenting kind of belief that it will work in the end to make it work. That's what I think anyway.
There's two things that you've just said there: delusion and unrelenting. And I actually think that both of those are really, really important ingredients. Maybe sort of delusion is sort of associated with naivety. Thank goodness I didn't know anything when I started my businesses, because I don't think there's a chance on God's green planet that I would have started them if I knew now if I knew then what I knew now. So if I were to say to you, you know, educational entrepreneur, what does that evoke for you, and what do you identify as a character trait that is necessary to be an educational entrepreneur with what's inside you already?
It's more than just being an entrepreneur, because yes, you've got to have a bit of business knowledge to drive the belief that you can do it, but also I ultimately believe you've got to have a passion for education. And then that can look different for different people. Like for me, it's I maybe underperformed at school a bit, so I want people who felt a bit like me to feel more confident. That's where my passion for education comes from. I'm also very passionate about families who can't afford tutoring to have tutoring. That's also something I'm very passionate about. So that's given me kind of momentum. However, for someone else, it could be, actually, I'm really passionate about getting young women into STEM, or it could be, I'm really into making sure students have the math skills to go and do whatever they want and to never feel they have maths is a barrier to getting them to college or to their career. I feel like it can look very different, but you've got to have something that makes you specifically passionate about education to make it work.
I've got a story about this, because I was about 20, 21. I was probably 21, because I took a year out of uni and then went back again. And when I went back after the year out, I had a meeting with the careers advisor. And I don't know what your experience is like with careers advice through school. I mean, I was told at 16, it was like, just join the army. And I was like, I'm such a coward. There's no way I'd be any good in the army. Are you kidding me? But I had some really good advice, and I was like, look, I actually really love, and I think I had 3 kids by this point. I actually really like working with kids. I like being around children. I've begun to like the parent and toddler groups, and I felt really out of like place in those sorts of places as a young dad. But I felt like teaching was, this is going to sound really harsh, but it felt like the lazy option. I was like, I'll just be a teacher then, because that feels like it's a profession that I could just get into. You know, I was middle of the road across everything I've ever done in school and college and uni. But I felt like this was something I really wanted to have a go at. Well, and I was like, well, what do I do? And she went, you need to get experience working with children. And my stepson at that point was 4.5. He just started school. And I was picking him up, and embarrassed to say, I was often quite late because of uni. So I'd be ending a lecture and I'd get back on my bike. I'd cycle across Canterbury to try and get him on time. It was always a little bit late. So I used to go into the office to pick him up, which is like the walk of shame if you're picking up your kids up from school. You don't want to do that. But on the notice board was an advert for a job to work over the summer in a play scheme. And I was like, do you know what? And this is, I think it'd been about a week in between me chatting to the careers advisor and then seeing this leaflet. And I phoned them up, and I was like, look, I'm really interested working with children. This is my background. I'm finishing off this business degree, and it's actually coming to an end. I'm looking for some work with it. And she was like, oh, it's not, all the jobs have gone. But we had a conversation on the phone. I walked home. It was about a 10-minute walk. They phoned me back. They basically no job, but they phoned me back the next day and said, we really enjoyed your conversation on the phone. Can you come and meet us? And I was like, yeah, okay. So I cycled across Canterbury again, met them, and they created a job for me. It was for 4 weeks in the summer holiday, working at a barracks, the army barracks in Canterbury, which is not there anymore, working with all the barracks children. So the children, children's dads are in the army, mums are in the army. And oh my God, I loved it. I couldn't believe I was getting paid to play football, cricket, art, cook lunch, play in water. This is like, I cannot believe people are paying me to do this. The long and short of it is I met people who were, because it was a funded thing, because it's again access, who were funding it all, had a chat with them. I had another job working with families by September. So I did 4 weeks in the August, I had a new job in September, which led me into creating, it wasn't me, I didn't create it, but I was part of the project working in prison. And it was helping dads read stories. I would record them onto a disc and they'd send them home, because the whole idea was break the cycle, right? You keep dads in contact with their children, break the cycle of like basically generations going to prison, because the stats on that are absolutely shocking. But what actually happened was 80% of them couldn't read. So we bought books, couldn't read. And I was like, what? And then I got friendly with a couple of them because they would come every week and I had a helper. And it just transpired that these people they go down that life because they can't read, they can't write, and they can't do simple things. And I was like, oh my God. And that was when, what you talk about, that passion, that was when I've got to be a teacher. That was like, I've got to try. If I can make sure, and this is like the naivety of being a teacher, if I can just make sure every single person in my class can read and write and do maths, they can look at job interviews, they will be able to add into society, they'll find that self-worth. Because these guys, they wanted to do more. The conversation said, I really want to be able to go and do this stuff, but I can't get a job. I can't even read a job application, let alone write one. And I was like, if I can do that. So I really resonate with that, because that's when I really felt it. I was about 22, 23 at the time. I was like, I need to go and do this. And so like that kind of like link into, I really want to do this. How do I do it? Like go and work with children. And it led me down that thing where it was a big light bulb moment. I was like, this is it. This is what I need to go and do.
I think that's so cool, because I feel it's one thing to say, I'm passionate about education, but that's so broad. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's more specific than that. I feel
Purpose,
there's a little part of education that gets you going, and that's so cool, your experience. And also, Richard, like the fact you were a dad of how many at this time?
Three.
I think that is unbelievably impressive, because being honest, I can barely look after myself and my business. You know what I mean? I won't eat to do well in the business. Do you know what I mean? Before having 3 kids running about is just absolute. I can't even comprehend it. So well done. Like, it's so impressive for you personally as well.
Yeah. Crazy times, but we lived through it. It was all good.
What about you, Matthew? Do you have a specific passion for education?
No, I was just thinking throughout listening to your stories about the careers advisor. Do you know what? Hazard a guess as to what my careers advisor said to me I should go into doing.
Were you academic or?
No, pretty middle of the road. My older brother, who in the family we ostensibly referred to as Dr. Google, who knows everything and anything. And then obviously I went to the same school as him. I think I was just a general disappointment to the family name.
I don't believe it.
But any guesses?
Was it Army or Navy?
No, not Army or Navy.
Was it services? Was it police?
No, I'll tell you. Forklift truck operator.
I wasn't expecting that.
Neither was I.
How do they even get that? That's so specific.
It's so specific. I remember, and I think it was like, they're like, do you like driving? I'm like, well, I'm 14 or 15, so I've no idea whether I like driving, but let's tick yes. And I didn't know what a forklift truck was at 14. So I was about to say I had to Google it, but of course Google didn't exist back then. so I had to ask my teacher. I was like, sorry, miss, what's a forklift truck? And what's a forklift truck operator? And she tried to describe it, but I didn't know what it was. So anyway, I think, I don't think the careers advisor got it quite right, that one.
And the thing is with careers advice as well, like it frustrates me because it's constantly, how do you get your CV ready for an employer, right? And there is nothing about, maybe when I'm older, I want to be an employer. There is nothing about that. Do you know what I mean?
It's interesting, yeah.
And that is something that frustrates me so much, because when I've done a few talks in schools this year, which has been incredible, I've gone in and said, this is about young people who want to go into entrepreneurship, because I feel that is just never something that's covered by schools careers advice. And I think we should start talking about that earlier on, so kids can feel they can go into entrepreneurship. It's not all just about getting your LinkedIn ready for another employer,
Yeah.
You've hit the nail on the head there. There's something that, cause we were just talking, Richard and I, about someone who we both admire, and it's Daniel Priestley. And he is often talking about schools today, or still, in the same way that they have been since the Victorian times and probably even before, are just generating students. And as a qualified teacher who's worked in the state system and knows exactly what, I resonate with what he's saying 100%. I agree with it. That we just churn out students who are component labor ready. There isn't much about entrepreneurship, and schools are getting there slowly. None of this is schools' faults, by the way.
No.
But I think that there is a challenge that sometimes, I was a science teacher, right? And one of the first things you do on the GCSE specification is the calcium cycle. And what I mean by that is the calcium oxide and calcium hydroxide and all that jazz. I remember a kid, which all kids ask, they go, "Sir, why do we need to know this?" And I was like, in case you ever want to make cement. That's the best answer I could come up with. And it's true. That's all I had. I was like, in case you want to make cement and so you can understand what the test of carbon dioxide is. It's just so random. But I felt really proud of my answer there. Same as forklift truck. I was like,
well, at least there is a reason. I feel like in English, I would struggle to answer at all for anything in the real world. So at least there is one thing, that could be helpful for. But there we go.
But you can ask that about anything. Like, what's the point of me learning this? The point of learning something isn't necessarily for the point of learning something. It's just for the sheer fact of learning.
I agree. Look, I love this conversation. Shall we get back to business a little bit? This is the tangent that we were worried about at the beginning, and it plays a bigger purpose, and I love it. Jonny, we were talking about we started talking about passion, that kind of like what brings you back into you starting and growing your business, and that ambition, like from working with a company where you're like, I'm not sure about their values. I think I can bring my own thing in here and make it work. Now, I don't think there's a lot of people who think that way. Like me and Matthew were talking about this. We had a quarter of an hour chat about business this morning. Yeah. Like what do you think sets you apart? Why did your mind go down this route of, I'll just do this on my own?
Yeah. No, I have always loved the thought of running a business as well.
Right.
Definitely. I think I've always been, kind of when I was a kid, I was into weird things. Like, I was into Lego and cars, actually. They were kind of two big things of mine, but I was also into like money and shops and like, I don't know, flights. And like, I was always slightly interested in like the business world, I guess. So I think it has always been slightly in my DNA. And, I do think, going back to what I said earlier, entrepreneurship is something that can't be taught. I do think you've either got that part of you in you or not. And I do believe I've had that, because it excites me now at the stage I'm at with the business. I'm so not satisfied with where we are now. I want it to grow and I want it to be better, and I want to continue what we're doing, not particularly to make money. And that's something for me, like, of course I'm motivated by money to an extent, because I love giving people things and I love doing things and I love exploring the world, However, it's not a big driver for me. What is a big driver is seeing success. That is kind of what I'm slightly addicted to. I really love seeing business and systems I've made within my business work and get better. That makes me excited. So I'm not satisfied, and I don't believe probably I ever will be. So
are you an absolute sucker? And I know that I am as well, is that I'll set a goal post, and then as I approach it, I'm like, I'm nearly there. Then I move it backwards by like 50 miles. I'm like, well, it's much further away than I thought. But I'm the one that's moved it.
A little bit. I'm a big one for setting goals. However, I think it's really important that when you meet that target, reward yourself. Like, I think I would set another one afterwards, but I would also celebrate meeting that, because I think that's important.
I think people need to write that down, because we forget. I'm trying to stop myself from keep going into the future and into the future. Like, be in the present moment and go, do you know what? This is where I am right now, and I really appreciate it. I'm grateful for it. I can set another target, but let's stop and celebrate for a little bit. I'm terrible at that. We just keep going, we'll do the next thing and the next thing, and then suddenly you've not even reflected back on what you have achieved. You're just looking at what you're trying to achieve. You never get that the proper dopamine hit of, oh my God, I've done it.
And it's so important to look back as well.
Yeah,
you know, that saying,
yeah.
you know, it's important to dream the old dream again. You will have, what you've achieved now and not thought much about 2 years ago would have been your absolute vision board kind of goal. It's so important to reflect 100% because it makes you realize how far you've come, and I believe will spur you on to keep achieving as well. So I think that's really important.
Why are you more wise? Are you 23, Jonny?
No, I'm not. I've just had my birthday. I'm older than you both think. I'm now just turned 25, so I'm ancient now.
I was miles out. I was miles out there, Matthew. Jonny. Right, okay.
You cannot talk to two 40-odd-year-olds and go, I'm ancient
Mid-20s,
now.
that's wild.
I still think my point is true. Like, how do you talk with such like that wisdom of like what you just shared? Like, I'm on the back of, I've been running a business for about 8 years. Matthew, you're longer than that, aren't you? About 15.
No, Capital Tutoring Group is 10 years old. It had its 10th birthday in September 2025, so it's just over 10 years old.
And I still don't do those things that you're talking about, Jonny. Is there like I've had business mentors who will tell me like, oh, you need to do this at this stage, and you need to like that reflection. And not that I ignore my business mentors. I don't, and I will always follow everything they say.
Yeah.
But there's still bits that I'm like, I struggle with. Have you got people in the background who help like guide you and keep you on track and make sure, do you know what? You do need to look at what you're achieving here, Jonny. Make sure you take time to reflect and celebrate.
Yeah. Do you know what? In the early days, I did have a business advisor who actually I looked up to a little bit when she was on The Apprentice quite a bit ago. Her name's Camilla, and she's been brilliant in the early stages. I think and I want to say this carefully because my parents are so supportive, right? But I think they're from backgrounds where they're very against arrogance. And I'm so pleased they brought me up like that because it's made me, you know, it's kept me grounded and it's made me work quite hard to try and think I'm even half as good as someone else. And I think that's been a really good way. But sometimes it left me a little bit, I'd say, underestimating myself a little bit. And I do believe to succeed and to say things, you've got to have confidence in yourself. And I believe what Camilla taught me is there's a difference between self-confidence and arrogance. You know, it's really fine to think highly of yourself and to say, actually, I've done this really well. That's good. And I think she injected that confidence into me. And I think that's made a big difference. So, yeah, I feel like both have been really helpful. But you need to believe in yourself as well. Do you know what I mean? Like arrogance don't be too afraid of arrogance, I guess, to not even admit you've done things well. You know, so I think that's important.
I think self-confidence and arrogance definitely get confused. Arrogance for me is like false self-confidence. It's somebody saying like, oh, I'm amazing, but actually you haven't done it yet or proven it to yourself. So, or to others, not that you always have to prove yourself. I'll give you an example. This is children, so it's not dangerous to talk about in any way. And since I'm not pointing the finger at any adult, like I still do quite a bit of football coaching. But when I was at school and I used to like coach the year 5s and year 6s, you get the boys and sometimes the girls are less so, but the boys especially who are like, oh, I'm so good at football. I'm so good. And you're like, I don't need to train. I don't need to practice. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, and this was like pomp of Messi and Ronaldo. What, you don't think Messi and Ronaldo train 8 hours every day? They're the best in the world and they still do 8 hours every day. And you're telling me you don't. You're that good. That's arrogance on children, and that's fine. And we can forgive them for that because it's kind of coming from a place of not knowing. But self-confidence is, there's no way you could accuse Ronaldo or Messi of being arrogant.
No.
Because they're doing it, or they have done it, you know, and that's the same. We can put that and lift that up into business and into other industries, into other pieces of life. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a difference between the two. And the only person that needs to recognize that difference is us.
Very true. That's a big one. Yeah.
Because the other thing that I was going to say about arrogance is arrogance, self-confidence is within, right? But arrogance, I always think of is a perception of another.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's in the eye of a beholder. It's external. It's not from like, and sure there are people who are intrinsically arrogant, but maybe that probably speaks to the other person who's viewing that person as arrogant more than it does about that person who is perhaps exhibiting that arrogant trait. Maybe that's just their version of self-confidence for them. I don't know. I just think that I totally hear about this sort of the humility and all of us here have had to work really hard to get to a place where even feeling decent or okay or a modicum of average has been quite a challenge at times in our lives. But there are some things you're like, no, now that I'm 40 odd, I know I'm good at this because I've got the qualifications, because I've got the accolade, because I've got but sometimes you don't need to have all of those things just to know. I know that I've had to work quite hard going, no, I am good at X, Y, and Z because, like I'm saying, I've got the qualification. I've been doing it for X number of years. It's, my company's never been loss making or whatever it might be to prove that I'm good at it.
I think that's such a good golden nugget for entrepreneurship and business owners. Like, be quietly confident and know it internally, but it doesn't have to be external. Do you know what I mean? I think that's so cool. No, I won't do another quote. I feel like I've quoted out. Actually, I'm not going to do any more quotes now, but I'll do one more. What is it? It's like, work hard in silence, let your success be the noise. It's a bit like that, isn't it? There we go. No more quotes. I promise. No more quote. I'm a sucker for
Jonny, take it. That's from Jonny Heaver from Achiever Tutoring.
I'm not claiming that. Oh dear.
Yeah. That's and it's validating as well. That I think and an internal validation, not an external one, which I really like. Jonny, bringing in the probably what of people watching or listening will be like, oh God, you can just talk about it. Yeah, like the elephant in the room might be The Apprentice now. Yeah, and look, we've chatted. We had a really good conversation at Tutor Fest around The Apprentice and your time on there. We don't need to go into that, but what I think would be really interesting to know is and I know for others will want to know this, what made you apply? And as a second sort of follow-up question, what was your biggest takeaway? What did you really learn from that whole experience?
Yeah. Why did I apply? Quite simply, because I always loved the show. I've always loved The Apprentice. It's been like my favourite programme since I've been like 13. I've been like, I want to go on there one day. And I never had a business. And then suddenly I did have a business. So it made sense. But again, a bit like Achiever, a bit like me, very in character. I applied, literally submitted my application like 2 minutes before the deadline. And that is not a joke. It was honestly 2 minutes to midnight. Just being like, I'll give it a go. And then it was the next morning, again, no exaggeration. They said, come down to London. And I was in Liverpool.
No way.
And I said, I'm in Liverpool. I can't get to London in 2 hours because it's about 9:30 and they wanted me down for 12. And they were like, well, take it or leave it, So of course I threw on my suit and went down. And so again, it was like a last minute thing. But so the question was, why did I apply? Because I've always wanted to go on it, quite simply.
Okay.
I wasn't really expecting to get on it. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes we do things a bit like, well, give that a go, you might as well. But it was very much that mentality. And then
how many people applied, Jonny?
I've heard about 70,000.
What?
Which is ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. It's one of those curveballs in life. I don't know how I got on that show because there were so many times you had to keep going back down to London and they're slowly whittling it down.
Yeah.
And even the first stage, like out of your applications, they accept I think maybe 5,000 out of the 70,000.
Yeah.
Even that's a tiny chance. And then it's 5,000 to 500, then 500 to 50, then 50 to 20. I just don't understand, honestly. People are like, what do you recommend to get on it? And honestly, it's so stupid, but it is just be yourself, be kind to everyone you see. And that was my advice because that's all I did, very bizarre. What did I learn from it? What I learned from The Apprentice is that you've got to go for things. Like, if it's a 1% chance, who the flip cares? Go for it. Do you know what I mean? Because I got on it, and I think we often discount things because of the likelihood of it failing or not working. And there will always be a likelihood, even if it's tiny, of it working and going well as well. So that's what I've learned from it. You've got to go for these things. Otherwise, well, of course it won't happen.
How has the whole experience shifted the course of your trajectory? Because it's not an insignificant thing, right? Not many people can say that they've been selected out of 70,000 people to go on a national TV show about business with, the famous characters that are in it. It must have sort of given you a propulsion, or at least veered you off into a different direction.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about The Apprentice is it's not like Love Island, for example, or I don't know, I'm a Celebrity, where it gives you a personal, big public profile. Yes, it's funny being recognised about, but you don't become famous from The Apprentice. That's not really the point of it. What it does do is it puts a big light on your business, and that's what I loved. Because being honest, it was a free kind of national PR campaign for my business. That's kind of what it was. Because there's like a funny thing, like I think it was 3 years ago, I really wanted to advertise in our local paper, and there was a tiny advert in one of the back pages, literally about a quarter of the size of my palm, for about £350 for a month. And I was like, I'll wait, it's quite expensive. And then 3, 2, 1, I was on The Apprentice, I was on the front page of it, massive, for free. Do you know what I mean? It's just things like that. Like, that's what it brings you. It brings you just free advertisement, free exposure for your business. And that's what was so special.
When are you applying, Matthew? Let's get you on there.
I genuinely couldn't think of anything worse, because partly because it's scary.
They wouldn't have enough room. You'd have to have a really big TV for Matthew, because underneath Matthew would be all of his businesses just listed out. And it's like, make sure you get them all in. I want them all in. Yeah. You can only watch it on 100-inch TVs.
What business would you go on to the show with, Matthew, if you had to choose one?
That's a great question.
Remember, if you win, you've got to give up half of it for Lord Sugar. Remember that? Yeah. So
he's already out. Matthew's not doing that.
Yeah. I'm like, listen, Sugary boy.
Lord Sugary boy.
Sugar cubes.
Yeah, Lord Sweetness. I'll give you 7.5% max. Yeah. I forgot that's what you had to give 50% away.
Yeah, 50% for 250 grand is the winning prize. Yeah. So it basically values your business at 500,000, doesn't it? And I think winners have negotiated sometimes a bit.
Have they?
Yeah. But my dream was to come second, I think. It's not amazing, no. I would like to come second. I didn't come second, no, it isn't. But that would have been my dream position, because you're in it for the maximum amount of time, you get the maximum amount of exposure, but then you don't have to give up 50% of it at the end. So that would be my ideal scenario.
So what's the incentive for winning? Just run that by me again. You win, but you lose half your business in the process.
He's like, what a rubbish show. I can't believe you're having a go at The Apprentice here, Matthew. We're cancelled. We haven't even gone live, and the show's been cancelled. Thanks, Matthew. We've lost the BBC out. They won't advertise or use us for sponsorship.
I have to say, that passed me by. I didn't know you had to give 50% away.
Yeah, you get 250,000, you get lots of advice, they work on your business with you. And then I think it is with the intention of Lord Sugar always gives back his shares after like 5 years. Do you know what I mean? So it's not forever and ever.
It's like an incubator. It's like like the whole thing is to propel you. It's to incubate, propel, scale, sell.
Yeah, exactly that. It gives you a little rocket boost turbocharge for 5 years. And I'm not going to say no to it. I think, if that happened to me, like I'm not going to be sad, but having Lord Sugar work in your business.
I think a lot of these sorts of things as well is all about actually the connections, the people you talk to, the people you're suddenly put face to face with, and they're in this business, they're in that business, and what's it? I think my dad used to call it golf course business. So much business is done on the golf course or whatever, and not in boardrooms or anything like that. It's just having conversations.
A prime example of that was meeting Vicky and Richard, 100%, because Vicky, not slided into
She did
DMs.
slip. No, just say what it is, Johnny. She's sliding into people's DMs.
And I was like, oh, who's Vicky? Do I know Vicky? No, I don't. And then it said Tutors Who Thrive. And I was like, oh, what's that? Looks interesting. And she was like, should we meet for a coffee? And I don't think that would have happened if I wasn't on the show. So that's a brilliant example of, being introduced to you guys has been such a fantastic part of last year and this year. So, and I'm not just saying that to be sycophantic, like genuinely, that's a really good example of what it brings. Like, yeah.
Oh, thanks, mate. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to add something else in here, because when Vicky was saying, I'm going to go and do this, I was like, oh, really? What, someone on TV, a reality TV show? Because in my mind, like you saying about like Love Island and whatever else is out there for reality TV is often in the other, not The Apprentice, but in the other ones, they just choose the most extreme personalities.
Yeah.
So they can get a good show. And I was really worried, perhaps it'll end up being like, really arrogant or, not as humble as you are. And like getting to know you over the last, it's probably 7 or 8 months, or maybe a little bit longer. You are really humble. And I know that obviously I chat to a lot of other business owners. And the one thing when I tend to align with somebody is that because their values and ethics are really high and they're doing it for whatever reasons, but it's their reasons and it's for really good reason. I think that that emits from you, it's there. And I really like that. And I was really pleased that you were like that as well. I was like, yes, I'm decent. Love this.
Well, I hope so. Thank you so much. It's great to hear.
We're coming towards the end. I know there are a couple of the questions that I think would be really great to sort of like get into the end, and there's some really sort of hard hitting things here. I don't know whether this was on record or not, or whether this was just when we were just having a quick chat before. We were talking about that forward thinking, that being an entrepreneur, and it sounds like you've got this sussed out like much better than probably myself or Matthew, where you take time to celebrate your wins and your achievements, and that's really important. You put that forward. One of my things that I'm working on is stopping going, right, the next thing, right, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. However, I can't stop myself from doing that. I think that will always be there, even if I put a lid on it for now and I focus on getting one thing, doing one thing really, really well.
Yeah.
There's something which I talk about with a lot of teachers, especially, who are like on the fence about tuition. And they say, well, I don't know whether I want to do it long term. And I said, well, you don't have to, but does this give you the opportunity to leave something behind and then you use it as a stepping stone? Because tuition has very low entry cost to market. It's very rare that if you're independent, that it's going to cost you money to run your business. You can just go, right, I can grow it to a certain point. It gives me a bit of freedom, but then I can work out what's next. As an entrepreneur, and that's for, I consider like people who are like still kind of stuck in a particular mindset. When you're an entrepreneur and you can see all the opportunities, which is half the issue, like, oh my God, there's one over there and there's another one, and you're just constantly scanning the distance and the horizon for the next thing. One, is that an issue for you? Is that something that you have to rein back? But also, what is the next step? Is it Achiever Tuition? Where do you see yourself in that horrible interview question in 5 years, 10 years time?
Yeah. Well, I'd love to say I'm not focusing on the next thing, but I'm such a sucker for like New Year's resolutions and vision boards and all that. And I've done that this year as well. Yeah. But actually, a part of this year, which isn't very business savvy or business minded, is I'm going traveling for 3 months in Asia.
Oh, nice. Oh, amazing. Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
Which is a good thing, because it's not the right time, being honest, to go to Asia for 3 months. It's not great timing because business will be busy and I want to be focused on growing the business. But actually, it's one of those, if I don't do it now, I probably never will. And I think blessing in disguise, because at the moment, I feel what's restricting my growth and meeting new milestones slightly is I'm very caught up in the day-to-day operations of the business. And I feel taking a step back to go to Asia, yes, I'll still be working a little bit, but less so, will make the business kind of work itself. And then I can be more focused on the external things, like the marketing, like the meeting new people, like the growth strategies. And I think that's where Achiever that's what Achiever needs at the moment. So I don't know. Yes, it's not a business decision to go traveling and dot around in Thailand for however many months, but actually it could have good business outcomes at the end of it. So that's kind of an example, I guess. Repeat your question. I don't know if that actually answered your question.
I think it does. And I was just gazing at Matthew's eyes then, because we were talking about something similar earlier on when we was just chewing the fat over business, that why do we start this thing, like the business? And there's a passion and there's something there, but there's with like a passion to what you do, and it doesn't matter whether it is with intuition or something else. But business ownership, entrepreneurship, there's something romantic about that, which is freedom, or it's an absolute prison.
Yeah.
And it's our choice how we set things up. And super envious that you're doing it at your age, but also like it's amazing, like it's inspiring, because like it will be the making of like, this is how I need my business to run, so I can have every year like this, please.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's so true. I think it's so easy as an entrepreneur to think, oh, I've got everything, I've got freedom, I've got the liberty to do what I want. But actually, it's not like that. You'll know this, both of you. Everything's your fault when you run a business. There's and actually there were so many nights, like Monday night, I was up till 1 a.m. doing admin and whatever, sorting things out. And that's what's needed. Actually, it's not all, let's not romanticize entrepreneurship as something you can go to Thailand all the time. Because yes, I am, but it's it can be tough as well. And also what you said about teaching, Richard, I've looked at my mum. She's been a teacher for all her career, an English teacher, and she's so good at her job, but she was just, she had no freedom at all. And I do feel if you're someone who wants that freedom, do it. Tutoring can be such a great point of entry into creating the routines and the life that you want, potentially. Yes, it's hard work, but it can get there.
Nice.
I love that. I love the fact that you're doing vision boards and New Year's resolutions, and that you're quite good at that, because I'm rubbish at that. But just because you have mentioned that you're going traveling for 3 months around Asia, and it's it's not just Thailand, you're doing a bunch of other countries as well, which is so envious. But it's super exciting. And I was just literally on a call yesterday with doing a little bit of consultancy with a small tutoring organization of a lovely. They've got a really lovely thing going, and her and her partner have been digitally nomading whilst running her tutoring company for 1.5 years.
Wow.
And predominantly around Europe. And I was like, where were you in Europe? And she was like, best country I went to was Bosnia and Serbia. I was like, who goes to Bosnia and Serbia? But you have, and that's super cool. And the freedom, we were literally talking about freedom, is how do you define freedom? It's the freedom to go to Serbia and Bosnia whilst running your company. But yes, the flip side is they were probably up to 1, 2 and more in the morning doing the admin. So if freedom is being in bed at 10 o'clock with your slippers, great. That tutoring companies will be able to do that. If it's, I'm going to go digitally nomading for 1.5 years, or go to Asia for 3 months in peak exam season, then that's what I'm calling freedom. And that's the thing that I want. And I think tutoring, I don't know whether the series is called Entrepreneurship in Education. I think all entrepreneurship to a degree can enable whatever it is that you want to call freedom.
Yeah.
And for me, I'll ask you for me, things have to be done on my terms, which gives you an awful lot of indication of what my character's like. But I just want it to be done on my terms. I was a teacher for many years, and my life was dictated by a bell. And whenever that bell rang, it was like a. Does anybody use here their mobile phone as their alarm clock?
Yes.
Sometimes, yeah.
And that whole thing. It's just like that noise being dictated to by a bell. Still, I might have some PTSD about it. But it's on my, when I run my companies, it's on my terms to an extent. And that's what I can cope with. That's the freedom. I've got to go to Paris at the weekend, and I'm going because that's the freedom that having a remote job that are both my companies affords me. Same thing with you. You'll be working by the pool, I suspect, will you, Jonny?
Oh, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's not gonna be that glamorous. I'm doing the hostels and the bunk beds. I'm not doing the, like 5-star resort kind of route. That's not where I'm going. But for Christmas, my parents were very generous and bought me an Airbnb voucher for emergencies. So if I'm just sick with use hostels one night, I can book myself into an Airbnb.
That's
So
a
that's quite
great
exciting.
present.
Yeah,
What a
really
great
good
gift.
present. So maybe at least one of the evenings will be more glamorous. I can take my picture of me on a balcony somewhere looking very nomad.
How can people keep up with you? Will you be sort of travel logging your way, blogging your way through a little bit?
You know what? I am, as much as I hate to say it, I am an Instagram lover. I hate to say it. I know that's not very popular. Instagram's very toxic and the rest of it, but I do love a bit of Instagram. So yes, I will probably be posting it on Instagram. So that's probably a
And
good
so
place
if
to go.
people wanted to follow your experience, how would they do so?
Jonny Heaver on Instagram. Achiever Tutoring, got to give that a follow as well. You've got to get the education in there as well. So yeah, Jonny Heaver and Achiever Tutoring.
Jonny, thank you so much for giving us your time and just sharing really honestly and humbly. And it's always a pleasure chatting with you. We want to create a bit of a tradition within this new podcast, and we're going to see how it goes through this series. So we're going to want to kick it off with you, if that's okay.
Exciting.
Matthew, do you want to take this away?
I will take this away. So we're going to do two little traditions that kind of be the punctuation marks at the end of each episode. And the first little tradition is a question. And it's a reflective question back to yourself that will be helpful for many listeners and young entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs who have a desire to set their own companies up or whatever it might be. So what would you say to your younger self? I mean, you're not that old at 25 being ancient, but what would you say to your younger self?
I'd say to my 2-year-old self, no, I'm joking. What would I say what I would say is, because it's a cliche to say don't underestimate yourself, and I want to go a step further than that. Don't underestimate yourself, yes, but don't worry that you're not as good as someone else, because actually we all develop and improve and have our moment at different times. Do you know what I mean? For me, that happened quite a lot later. And that was, and I say later, I know I'm still young, but later for me compared to other people. And that's okay. I feel you'll have your moment when it comes. And if you feel like that, oh, I'm not as good as someone else, or I haven't got to where I want to be yet, that's okay. That's what I'd say to my younger self.
Powerful. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
And just to make clear as well, I feel like even if you're 60, 70, this is could still be the case. People can do whatever they like. They can start a business or do something they've always wanted to do much later in life as well. That's completely fine. Like, I look at my mum who's just retired, and she's actually almost having like a renaissance and doing everything she wants to do on her own terms. And that's kind of like her having her moment now. Do you know what I mean? So I just want to add that in there as well. Like, it doesn't have to be when you're 21 or whatever.
And to bounce immediately off that, that's very, 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 very powerful. Therefore, with that, and it can be in the same vein, or it can be something completely different. You, Jonny, get to set us, either me or Richard or both, the podcast in general, a challenge that we have to complete before our next guest comes on next week.
Oh, okay. So it's like a short-term thing. Right. Okay.
The challenge is that we'll have to film it, record it, whatever it might be. And we'll pop it out on our socials.
Okay.
So you get to set us a challenge.
Right. So put something, this is for both of you, by the way, I'm picking both of you. So you've got to write something you want to happen soon in the next few weeks, write it down, put it in an envelope, open it up at the end of the series, right? And see if you've achieved it.
Okay.
If you have, I bet you'll have forgotten. It will leave your mind and you'll be like, oh yeah, I have achieved that. And that will be proof that, we've got to thank ourselves more. And if you open it up and you haven't achieved it, that will be interesting as well, because actually it could be that that's not needed anymore and your directions change, and that could be a really powerful thing as well. Or it could be something you still need to do, who knows. But I think either way, it will be a good activity. I don't know. Maybe you're wanting something a bit light-hearted. I feel like it's gone down the self-help kind of
I like
route.
that. No, I think that's good. I like this, Jonny. Again, thank you so much. I'm going to share with you a couple of things which I'm taking away. The first one is the word delusion. Thanks for that. I think that kind of sums up entrepreneurship as a whole, like in a really, really funny way, but also bringing it back to like not being funny, but that actually there is something about having a crazy idea and just going with it. Whether that comes from a delusional place, or whatever word you want to install there, having that self-belief, and I think there's something about that which is that a lot of us could learn from, and just, do you know what, what's the, like you said, like what the flip, just do it anyway.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen in most cases? Like, we learn something.
No, that's amazing. I feel that could be a really good like Daily Mail headline. Jonny thinks delusion is the answer to business.
Yeah, good. Yeah, we'll send that off to the Daily Mail. They'll grab that.
Yeah, there we
definitely. Go. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much.
Great to have you on. Such a privilege to have you as guest numero uno on episode 1, series 1.